Better Call Saul is on the verge of revealing its last docket before it culminates into the setup of Breaking Bad. The AMC prequel series has so far delivered a series of shocking moments parallel to its predecessor, and it has also devoted much of its attention to unfurling Jimmy and Kim's big sandpiper scheme. Better Call Saul is now in full Endgame mode, but there are some pressing questions that might be addressed to wrap up the series. Here's the 9 insistent questions about Better Call Saul's Endgame. There are a lot of loose ends, and not a lot of time left to tie them up. What we know about that series informs a lot of our questions about how this one will conclude. But Better Call Saul has become so much more than a prequel over the years. Better Call Saul has established some huge storylines of its own, and these issues must be addressed. Especially that unyielding question of how and why Saul became a Cinnabon employee. So without further ado, let's review these crucial storyline plots that must be resolved in Saul's final case. Question number 1. Do the timelines of the shows intersect? To get the answer to this question, we'll have to break it down piece by piece. When Better Call Saul premiered in 2015, it was revealed that it takes place in May 2002, about 6 years before the exploits of Breaking Bad. Across town, Walter White is still an average high school chemistry teacher, and Jesse Pinkman was annoying him as the class clown just a few years prior. Although 6 years have passed in the real world, the narrative hasn't gone on for nearly that long in the world of the show. This was evident by the birthday celebrations of Walter White. In Season 6 of Better Call Saul, the events are unfolding in the middle of 2004. That's still 4 years before the action of Breaking Bad in 2008. So a direct scene of Saul Goodman in the universe where Walter is cooking meth would require an unexplainable time jump. Question number 2. How can Walt and Jesse return? It's been vaguely reported that Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul will again grace the screen as Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. But it seems to be far-fetched in the present-day material with alter ego Gene Takovic or Saul Goodman because the series finale of Breaking Bad didn't lay any hints to that regard. Is it possible that the Gene arc could actually end with him finding safety in Alaska along with Jesse? The writers have not indicated that they intend on pulling a twist of fate for these characters, but creative thinking could get the job done. Perhaps Jesse will need to contact Saul in the action between Breaking Bad and El Camino. Perhaps there's some unfinished business. In regard for that angle, it's plausible, but it's more likely the appearance, if any, will be within the main timeline of the show, which has been determined to take place in 2004. That time puts Jesse Pinkman at 21 years old when he was estranged from his parents and really getting into the meth scene. Walter was still teaching and picking up shifts at the car wash to make ends meet. Many have commented that they can't fathom how the writers will manage to bring the characters back. But reports indicate there is indeed a solution, and the solution is perfect. Whether that solution involves Walt and Jesse together or separately is another big question. However, nonetheless, the show's Twitter did announce their return, so the fans are patiently waiting for a 3-character reunion. Question number 3. Will there be more characters from the Breaking Bad universe? Fans have mostly been focused on Walt and Jesse, but other familiar faces could be awaiting an appearance in the concluding episodes. Consider Bill Burr's Patrick Kuby, the guy who was one of Saul's enforcers in Breaking Bad alongside Lavelle Crawford's character Huel. Huel has already appeared in the Saul timeline. Or perhaps Jesse Plemons Todd and or his neo-Nazi gang leader Uncle Jack have found themselves in need of Saul's services prior to hooking up with Walt. Other things to consider is that perhaps we'll get encore cameos from Hank and Gomi or Lydia, all of whom have dipped briefly into the Saul timeline and could plausibly do so again. And let's not forget about Skylar White, who is an essential character that won Anna Gunn 2 Emmys. There's every reason to believe she could be in the scene with Walter, depending on the timeline of their appearance. Question number 4. How did Kim and Jimmy escape Lalo? Or do they? According to reports from Vulture, the stunning 6th season had an interval with the return of Lalo Salamanca to Kim and Jimmy's apartment, where he shot Howard Hamlin in the head. It feels likely to pick up right there, with a vengeful Lalo looking for answers about Gus Fring's operation. We know many of these players are still active in the world of Breaking Bad, and so it's not like Better Call Saul can end with a bloody shootout similar to Breaking Bad. For many, it is unlikely that the writers would kill Kim in the mid-season premiere. Question number 5. What happens to Kim Wexler? This question has been pressing on everyone's mind because we all know that Kim, the love of Saul's life, is never mentioned on Breaking Bad. While this has led many to suspect that the final step for Jimmy to become Saul has to involve Kim's death, others are more optimistic. What if she's about to get away scot-free with a clean slate? What if she's living somewhere and Saul never mentions her to protect her from the cartel that's still hunting her? And she might also be hiding from the people who may have some questions about Howard's death. One thing is for certain, if Kim Wexler actually does bite the bullet, it's going to bring a ton of devastation to the fans. Question number 6. What comes of Lalo? If you could recall, while the vicious Lalo Salamanca doesn't appear in Breaking Bad, his name comes up in Saul Goodman's first appearance in the Season 2 episode titled, That's Right, Better Call Saul. Goodman has been kidnapped by Walt and Jesse, who the lawyer presumes are a part of the cartel, and protests, "No, wasn't me, it was Ignacio. He's the one." Then, after realizing they have no idea what he's talking about, he asks, "Lalo didn't send you? No Lalo?" This seemingly throwaway line indicates that not only is Lalo still alive in the Breaking Bad timeline, but that he's still the head honcho. Saul also mentions an Ignacio, which is the full name of Nacho. In this scene, it could just be Saul stalling for time and tossing out names from the past. Or will we discover that Lalo returned from presumed death to ascend to a position where Saul continues to fear his wrath? Question number 7. What's the fate of Gene Takovic? Although the final alter ego of Jimmy McGill hasn't been seen since Season 5, the creators have confirmed that he will return in the back half of the season. Seen in black and white prologues, the Cinnabon employee was identified in Omaha as Saul Goodman and attempted to flee. The Season 6 premiere eschewed this opening structure for a scene of Saul's house being cleared, presumably after the action of Breaking Bad. Yes, it's full of Easter eggs for fans, but the last stretch will return to Gene and hopefully close his arc. And unfortunately, since virtually anything that's possible in the universe probably will happen, regretfully, we might even see the death of Jimmy, Saul, Gene right there in Omaha. Question number 8. What role will Carol Burnett play? Here's one that was totally unexpected. It was just proclaimed last month that a living legend would appear in the final stretch of Better Call Saul in the form of comedian Carol Burnett. Back in 2018, she expressed her love for the show, so she's thrilled to make an entrance. Apparently, her role is quite substantial enough that her character has a name, Marion. But who the heck is Marion? The safest bet would normally be a client of Jimmy and Kim's, but it doesn't seem like these last episodes are going to have the time for legal action. Question 9. Could there be another Breaking Bad spinoff? After 14 years of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, it'll be saddening to say goodbye for good. To the day of the creation of this video, nothing has been announced regarding another spinoff. But even though so many fans worldwide have been enjoying the characters and storyline, it doesn't feel like there are more stories in the Breaking Bad universe that could still be told. However, Giancarlo Esposito, the actor who plays as Gustavo Fring, begs to differ. Esposito pictures a prequel that revolves around the life of Gus. What avenue for a spinoff would you like to see?